is video game sophistry.
I don't care what the kids are doing. VGS is on.
Battling the paralyzing grip of the world with only video games.
This is Video Game Sophistry.
Video game news.
Ways to waste time. Is there time to waste time?
Yes.
Here now are your time-wasting superheroes.
They're not superheroes. They have no superhero power.
Andy Burkowski, David Spargala, VGS.
Begins now.
Andy Burkowski here for VGS on Talk Radio AM 640. We did it, folks. We are still here a week later, 7 days, and they haven't thrown us out the door. Shaggy Davidson, co-host to my left.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
I think it's great. I think we survived. I think we have the ability to survive. And I think we're going to go strong.
Are you surprised?
No. Yes.
Again, VGS, we should probably give a little information, right?
Yeah, what are we?
What are we? Who we is how I'd like to answer that question. Well, of course, VGS, it's the show that we've been doing here for quite a long time. It looks at the world of video games and tech, something most people use, even if they don't want to admit it. You know, it's a big...
Do you have an alarm clock?
That's it.
You use tech.
As James Franco said last week, if you like pretty much anything.
You like art? Subway?
Subway artists, you know, that's what we have here.
One of my favorite movies.
It's an excellent movie. But that's not what we're talking about. No James Franco this week.
He wasn't available this week. Sorry. We could have got Dave Franco, but he was too busy filming.
He was too
Neighbors 2.
handsome, too.
Yes.
It would not
He might
work.
be Indiana Jones. Did you hear that?
Really?
Yeah. I don't like it.
You don't like that? Why?
I couldn't take it seriously.
Anyways, VGS, Video Game Sophistry, we're looking at the world of gaming and tech. We're going to give you some insight into maybe an industry you're not aware of. You know, maybe it's something that just your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, we want to even date you like that. Hey, listen, that segment of the population is playing more games than you think.
Interesting.
They really are, and we're going to maybe give you some instances of games that you can play that you'll enjoy. You know, try and get you involved in this genre of games. But also, if you're listening to this thinking, well, I play games all my life, it's something I love, just like movies, books, everything else, we're still there for you.
We're like friends. We'll be there for you.
Exactly. We're always going to be there for you. We have insights into the latest games, interviewing, you know, the big names, and also maybe some insights into how these things are made.
Awesome.
Last week, we had a great talk with Patrick Weeks. He is the lead writer at BioWare, one of the lead writers on the Dragon Age franchise, maybe one of the biggest fantasy games currently available. And this week, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Sure.
Too much fun.
I don't think I'm ready for too much fun.
So today, we'll be talking about a lot of things, old favorite features of the past. Oh, did we do number one, talk about our life and interesting things?
No, we didn't.
Perfect.
So how was your week? Good?
All right, so we're going to be talking about old favorite features of the past, something that we've loved to do.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people have loved it. One person, not as much.
No, I can think of one person, yeah.
Shaggy Davidson. He's not the biggest fan, but you know what? We're gonna turn him around because I think it's a feature a lot of people like. And then after that, I know you're excited about this, Dave.
Just tell me. I don't think this was part of the prep, but okay.
We're celebrating a very special birthday.
Yes, that's right.
A very special birthday.
I can't believe blank is turning blank.
Yes, we are that old.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, but it is something that is, you know, it's come to pass. You and I have loved this particular genre, this particular franchise, so we gotta give it its due. We're gonna give it some time.
We still mention it today. Like
Almost,
we already.
Almost every day. There's
Almost
some
every
kind
day.
of mention of it. And also, Shaggy Dave will be showcasing some special skills that he has.
Yeah, I heard about this. You mentioned this in the prep, and I'm excited to do it because it's been a long time, but it's resume worthy.
Do you think people will care?
I think they'll hate me, be like, you're the biggest nerd.
Speaking of biggest nerd, do you want a job in video games?
Yes.
You already got one. Now, if you want a job in video games, but maybe you don't like writing, there's not much of a tech background, you don't want to write the stories, you don't have those kind of skill sets, but you really like talking about it. You know, you love the art, you love the finance. There is a huge segment of the industry that is dedicated to purely journalism. You know, the stuff that you and I do, but a little bit better. And someone who is perhaps the best at it His name is Patrick Klepek. He is the lead writer. We want to say lead writer? No, he's one of the head writers, rather, at the website Kotaku. Most people who know games know Kotaku.
Yeah, one of the biggest websites.
It's at the cutting edge of this entire industry. And he's here today to talk about a lot of things about how he got his start, how you can get your start, and maybe some insight into why this is something that is important. You know, we had that last week with Patrick Weeks. He talked about why video games are important. Patrick Klepek, the Patricks are in, and, you know, he's going to talk about how you can get a job and why it's great. Another great thing about VGS that we love is that it's not only available over the airwaves.
No.
It is online in a huge way. Shaggy Dave, tell them about it.
Yeah, go to your internet browser.
You're doing
you
great.
can use Explorer, Firefox, whatever, and just type in 640toronto.com/VGS. Bada boom, bada bing. There we are, our beautiful faces, all our audio, all our past shows, our Facebook link, Twitter, our YouTube, everything.
Yeah. And if there are any, things that you hear throughout the show, anything you want to talk about, there is a way that you can talk to us right away. Send us an email, vgs@640toronto.com, or of course on Twitter at VGS_640. We play a lot of video game music in this show. A lot of video game music. And if you can identify any of the music that we play, send us an email, send us a tweet. We might mention it next week. We had a lot of people give submissions. A few of our bosses even made some guesses, so that's pretty cool.
It was 1 out of 5 or 6.
That's all we've ever needed. Again, we'll talk more about an old feature of the past coming up next. VGS Talk Radio, AM 640.
Now back to Video Game Sophistry with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy and Dave back here for VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640. Love that beat. Again, if you can identify it, make sure you tell us. Send us an email, vgs@640toronto.com, and we'll talk about you on the next show.
Yeah, you get a mention.
We do indeed. Now, speaking of mentions,
Yes.
this is a feature on VGS that we've been doing for years.
It's close to my heart.
It is indeed close to your heart, and you kind of hate it. Love-hate relationship.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. It's just,
I love it, you hate it.
I guess, yeah.
It's great. I think it's so much fun.
It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work, and it gets incredibly frustrating at times when computers decide to crap out on you and you don't save anything.
We're really amping this up. This better be
But it's an
amazing.
amazing feature.
This better be amazing. Again, VGS, we talk about video games, tech, bring you into that world. And the best way, I think, to really get into the video game world is to find out what's happening for the first time ever in 2016, News of the Week with Shaggy Dave.
This week in gaming.
I've got to do the
One of the most beloved games in the history of mankind is getting a 2 put beside the title.
The wars of this modern age, the psychic age, are all fought somewhere between these damp, curvaceous undulations.
Psychonauts 2, a revival of the late 2000s cult classic, has reached its crowdfunding goal. Over 24,000 backers gave Double Fine close to $4 million to recreate their childhood. If you can't find your old disc, just wait until the summer. The original is getting re-released. If you're a fan of paying crazy high prices for old games, listen to Bill Nye the Science Guy.
What if there were a way to take full advantage of this phenomenon? Enter the multiverse theory. Imagine an endless number of universes and an endless number of us.
Origin Access is now coming to PCs, so that means for $5 a month, you can get a 10% discount on all the new titles and DLC. The only downside is that you won't be able to play any of these games through Steam. Get ready because we might be experiencing more random acts of violence than ever before.
Calm down. It was funny at first, man. I made a mistake. Unfortunately, man, you failed. It was funny, all right? I apologize.
Sean Fontino, the man who has the voice and face of Franklin from Grand Theft Auto 5, sent out a picture this week of himself in full mocap suit. Does this mean a single-player GTA DLC game is coming? My fingers are crossed. And isn't it funny when the world of video games and politics come together?
Half man, half animal, all dead. Call me now for your free whipping.
The voice actor who portrays the iconic Duke Nukem turned down a national voiceover campaign from none other than the Donald. No, not that Donald. This Donald.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Donald Trump offered him big bucks to sell his soul, something this video game murderer couldn't even do.
Shaggy Dave, wonderful with that news of the week. Love it, love it, love it.
It was awesome.
Big fan. Again, VGS here talking about all your video game needs. You heard already what's been going on in the last week. Now we get a chance to really talk about it. You know, one of a game franchise that I think both of us really enjoy is Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, yes.
It is a stellar game. It's gotten a lot of bad press, but I do think it is one of the most immersive experiences you can have, and you can play them the wrong way, play them the right way, but you can also understand how violence is meant to be portrayed in a game. Now, this came out a while ago, GTA 5, the latest iteration.
It's like September, I think, 17th, 2013,
That
if
is
I'm
a
not
very
mistaken.
specific guess.
I know it's been over 2 years. I know it's close to my birthday, too, so.
There you go.
Am I right?
But I don't know.
Okay, let's look it up.
It's coming a long time ago, and a lot of people really love it, you know, us included. But usually with a game this big, they have a high-intensity DLC, another segment of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 2 years.
I know.
Haven't seen anything. But apparently, we could be jumping into the world of Los Santos again.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. We waited so long for the heist in GTA. Man, it's like, yeah, we're going to get heist right away. No. We waited over a year for heist, so maybe this is like the end of it. Mm-hmm. And look at what they did with Red Dead Redemption. I mean, it was its own game, right? So
The
maybe
online,
that's...
you mean?
No, sorry, the Undead Nightmare.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, of course. Great
Nightmare.
DLC.
Yes, so it's going to be its own game maybe. So maybe that's why it's taking so long, but I'm really excited about it.
But we don't know. It's like the whole point of this, we don't actually know.
No, we don't know.
This is
yeah,
here.
I'm getting my hopes up here.
Yeah, because the only reason we're even mentioning it is because the voice actor that plays the incomparable Franklin,
yeah.
He was, like we heard in News of the Week, he was seen in one of those hilarious suits with little white balls on it.
The mocap suit.
Exactly. And he's not involved in any of the DLC stuff, so it's very likely that his character will be back in the main story. You talked about Red Dead Redemption and how Rockstar creates these standalone titles that are DLCs. Most DLCs are a few levels, you know, one or two funny little things, maybe new weapons, new experiences. Rockstar makes almost full-fledged new games for $10 or $15. I think the best DLCs I've ever played in my several centuries of playing video games were the DLCs for Grand Theft Auto 4. Ballad of Gay Tony and The Lost and the Damned were their own experiences that had their own themes. They brought something new to the story. The only thing that's maybe comparable was the Fallout New Vegas DLCs, but those games were so much fun, the Grand Theft Auto DLCs, and I was really upset that for 2 years, 3 years now, God, it's 2016.
It is.
We haven't had any of these experiences except for the online ones, but I'm pretty hopeful. I think that he wouldn't do this unless he was going to be involved in a new game.
Yeah, I hope so too. Like I said, it's been a while. It's been over 2 years, and like
Are you still interested though?
For sure. Yeah, no question. I'll be like one of the first to play it.
I don't think they will capture a lot of interest unless it is a full-fledged DLC. Like if it's just Franklin Online, I don't think it's going to turn a lot of heads.
What are you going to do with Franklin? Like rescue Chop from The Lost? I don't know.
The Lost?
No, what's the biker gang in there?
Yeah, the Lost and the Damned.
It's still, the whatever's left in GTA 5. I don't know. Or like even I was thinking maybe Michael's DLC would be to get his yacht back. Remember right at the beginning of the game they steal his yacht or his idiot son?
Yeah, no. It is possible.
I think that might be. I think that might be it. I don't know. You never know.
I think that they're going to space.
Oh my! Remember there was talk of zombies and something like that?
I don't think there was.
Oh, I think there was. Maybe I'm wrong.
This last story that everyone's been talking about this week, it's been in the news, you know, coast to coast, around the world. A poor, unfortunate soul decided to allow his young, impressionable son to play video games. What happened next?
Man, this guy, it's a 17-year-old kid. It's a local story. Well, not really local. Pembroke.
Yeah. A Canuck story, at least.
Yes,
yeah.
that's a Canuck story.
Yeah.
He racked up almost $8,000 on his dad's emergency credit card.
$8,000, not just buying, emergency items. This is what happened, essentially. Lance Perkins got a credit card bill, that's the father, late last year, for nearly $8,000, $7,600, after his, 17-year-old son made in-game purchases in the latest FIFA game. $8,000.
How do you, I don't...
Well, that's the question. Like, first of all, a few questions that I think the world has been asking.
Okay.
Why does an emergency credit card have such a high limit? Really? Because what kind of emergency requires $8,000? I don't know how many Mexican prisons you've been locked in that you need to, like, cross borders and stuff, but I don't think a 17-year-old can get in that much trouble in Pembroke. I don't see it.
Maybe he's got good credit and they gave him that was his starting limit.
That was it. Maybe ironically, this was old Lance's way of teaching his son the importance of good credit.
Yeah, it could be.
But so that's the first thing. I think it's absurd
go on.
that there's a credit card that has that kind of limit. And I've played FIFA games. I play a lot of video games. There's no way you can spend $8,000 just buying the stuff that's available.
I've never played the FIFA game, but if it's anything like the NHL games, you can buy like
I guess jersey stuff, right?
It's jerseys, and it's like booster packs for your online team.
Oh, unless so maybe that's it.
Maybe he wanted to get Messi, and he's like one of the rarest guys. Again, I'm not a soccer guy, but I know Messi's a good player.
Come on,
football.
Yeah. One of the quotes that I think is pretty great from Lance. He says, "Well, I'll let you do the great quote from the father that received this $8,000 Xbox
Actually, close
bill.
the window. You have to read it.
I will say it right now. There will never be another Xbox system or any other gaming system in my home." Lance Perkins. So he is, that 17-year-old will never get the joys that we experience every day. Apparently, the family says that the 17-year-old is, this is a quote, saying, "He's just as sick as I am because he never believed he was charged for every transaction or every item he went on the game." Do you believe that?
No.
I don't think that's true either. Like, I've paid for a lot of stuff on Xbox.
It says, do you want to go through with it? Do you want to confirm? Yes.
I've often not bought things because I realized, I don't, $199, never play again.
No, exactly. I know. The only thing I've ever bought online is like a season's pass for, I think it was Arkham Knight.
I bought tons of stuff online. It's just the idea that to rack up that much. I think he's lying. I don't think this is a story that is accurate. Please tell us what you think, your stories of what you believe is the most important news of the week. Send us an email, vgs@640toronto.com. And as you hear that music, that means we need to take a little bit of a break. Next up, very, very special birthday.
I'm so excited.
It's been a long time coming. Find out next, VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
You're listening to VGS with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy Burkowski here for VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640. It is a very, very special birthday, isn't it, Shaggy Dave?
Yeah, I'm so excited.
It's very exciting. It's neither of our birthdays.
No.
We're older.
It was last year. My birthday was last year.
When's your birthday? Every year. But this particular entity that we're talking about, its birthday is coming up this year, a very, very important birthday. And it's something that's very important to you and I.
Yeah.
It is the 20th anniversary
of what?
Pokémon.
Woo!
There we go. 20th anniversary. Shaggy Dave breaking radio by clapping. Everyone's excited.
That's our live audience.
It is our live audience. It is very, and this is something for those that don't know. You probably haven't observed any popular culture in the last 20 years, but Pokemon or Pocket Monsters, as is known in Japan, came out on February 7th in Japan, and this year. Actually, February 27th. I can't read, excuse me.
That's
February
okay.
27th is the exact 20-year anniversary of Pocket Monsters in Japan. That fun game where you would take little balls, throw them at little monsters, capture them in the Netherverse, for those younger audience that may be not aware, and then battle those monsters with other people, other sadists, that captured these creatures into indentured servitude.
Wow.
We never knew it at the time.
Never knew it at the time. No.
It was so
I still didn't know
much
until you
fun.
said it.
It was what kind of Pokemon did you play? Because again, video game wise,
I played a lot. I'll tell you all the ones I played. All the originals. I played Silver, Gold, Yellow, Pokemon Snap for N64, Pokemon Stadium 2 for N64.
Too much.
I tried Pokemon Pinball. I hated it.
How do you just? Why is this just in your head?
Leaf Green and Fire Red.
You sometimes forget my last name,
Crystal,
but you know this.
Sapphire, Ruby.
This doesn't seem real.
It's all real, bro. Believe it.
And those are names of specific games. And just,
yes.
Now, I'm still a purist when I think of this game from the 90s because it's something, a television show, then eventually a Game Boy game that everyone loved. I am still a 151 guy when it comes to the Pokemon.
I'm like after like Gold and Silver, like I just kind of lost interest. And
Everyone has their level.
I still played it, but I didn't know all the weaknesses and stuff, so I just gave up.
Everyone does have their level, though. It's kind of interesting because before it was a game. Of course, it was a card game.
Yes.
Television show. Do you ever play the cards? Are you a big Pokemon card guy?
I collected them. I never battled with them. I didn't understand.
Same kind of thing. Yeah, it was just I want that shiny Charizard.
Of course.
So and now, February 27th, you have a way to get your own shiny Charizard.
Yes.
What are they re-releasing?
They are re-releasing Red, Yellow, and Blue for the Nintendo 3DS.
Pokemon Red, Yellow, and Blue are coming to the new iterations, the new versions of these Game Boys, 20 years later with the 3DS, and they look dynamite.
They do, yeah. I can't wait to get mine. I'm a little jealous because they are releasing the new console with Charizard on it and Blastoise.
Very, very exciting.
It's the exact same game, but again, we don't know if they fixed the glitches, with all like missing no, and so you can get 99 Master Balls and rare candies.
All right, so enough of that nonsense. The important things are February will be around the world's Pokemon month. In the Super Bowl, they're spending $5 million to have a ad in the Super Bowl. You're going to see a Pokemon ad in the Super Bowl.
Pikachu's going to be at the Super Bowl?
Pikachu is coming to the Thunderdome. So
makes
again,
sense.
It does make sense because that's how it works. So it's very exciting. Not only is that happening, they are also releasing amiibos, those little toys that a lot of the kids love with their video games of Charizard, Jigglypuff, Greninja.
Yeah, I know Greninja.
Greninja. See, this is where I get lost. Okay. And Lucario. That sounds kind of familiar.
Yep.
So they're doing that. They're re-releasing, of course, these absolutely phenomenal looking games on, and you also get 3DSs that have that kind of inscribed on the case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so very, very excited about that. And the trading card game is getting a new release.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's getting a whole new iteration called the Generations Expansion, and it's covering kind of the most elite Pokemon, and it's so odd. I know, because we're adult men. But we're talking about, I don't know, I feel someone driving, listening to VGS on Talk Radio AM 640.
I would love to sit down with anybody to talk about Pokemon any day. That and wrestling. If you enjoy either of those, I'll sit down.
This is a video game show.
I don't care.
Okay, so some of the Pokemon that will be in this advanced pack include Pikachu, Snorlax, a bunch of Ninetales, Jolteon, Mega Charizard, Mega Blast.
Oh.
I didn't know what those were.
Yeah, it's like Digimon basically. It's mega.
Well, let's not get too involved in that. But basically, Pokemon, they're really trying to bring it back for the 20-year anniversary. And
I don't think it ever left.
I didn't really leave.
But it's amazing. It makes me feel incredibly old.
It does make you feel old, but you do have a bit of a special skill.
Okay, yeah, I've told you about this.
It is something not to be ashamed of.
It's not. No, definitely not.
Not to be ashamed of.
I'm very proud of it. I told you it's resume worthy.
I wouldn't say proud of, but it's something that you must live with. And in order to showcase a special skill for the audience here at VGS, we have to move.
Yeah, because
we got to switch seats.
Okay, so
let's not tell them why. Just enjoy this theme from one of the best Pokemon games of all time as we switch seats. See, this isn't so hard, right? Right?
Stuff.
Here we go.
You gotta fade it out. Look at you opping.
See, I learned radio. There we are, VGS again, Talk Radio, AM 640. David, you have a bit of a special skill. Tell the audience here, what is it?
Well, it happened many, many years ago. I was at my cottage, and we were playing Pokemon Gold, Silver. One night, we just decided to go through the entire Pokédex and just play the cries, and we would guess what Pokemon that is.
So again, these are just random noises
Yes.
that are supposed to identify these characters in this game. So we're going to play a few. Let's see if David Spargala gets them. Starting with... Okay.
That's the bicycle theme. Doug Trio.
1, yes.
That's Meowth.
Well done.
Isn't that Persian?
It is. Here's one of my favorites.
Psyduck.
Yes. This is terrifying. Why do you know this garbage?
I told you.
These are random sounds, folks.
think
He hasn't heard
it's
anything yet.
Poliwag?
Yes, correct.
Okay. You gotta. Oh my gosh.
What next?
That's Abra.
Yes.
That's Alakazam.
Wrong.
That's just distortion. Far-fetched.
And you have one last one.
Okay.
See if you can guess this. It's one of the most iconic. It's loved by everyone. You want to try it again?
Yeah, play it again.
Okay, here we go. Damn. It's very exciting radio.
I can't.
That is Gyarados.
Oh, God. Sorry.
Gyarados, damn it.
I told you, it was years and years ago.
All right. Well, again, we're very, very excited for the end of this new beginning, rather, not the end.
It's a new day.
A new day for Pokemon. So very, very excited about it. It's coming up on February 27th. We're going to have a whole big show dedicated to that. If you haven't had a chance to experience Pokemon, make sure you do. But next up, we are going to help you find a job in video games.
Thank you. Oh, not me. You.
No.
The listener.
The listener is going to get a chance to find a job in video games. We had a great opportunity to speak with Patrick Klepek. He is one of the head writers at Kotaku, very respected in the field. He loves video games for what they are, and he can give you some insight into how to get a job in journalism and why this is important. We'll have this coming up next on VGS Talk Radio, AM 640.
Now back to VGS with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy here, VGS, Sunday nights. We're talking about video games, how to get involved in the industry, and why it's really a great place to be. The best person to do that, I think, is Patrick Klepek. He is one of the lead writers at the biggest video game website, perhaps in the world, Kotaku. And we had a great chance to talk to him for a long time about how he got into the industry. But I think the most interesting things that he has to offer is really where the industry is going and how you can find yourself a job in this really, really competitive field. Again, Patrick Klepek here on VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640. First and foremost, do you still like playing video games?
It does take a little bit away from the thing you love when you make it. The transition from a hobby to something that you do in your day job. But I think one of the things you have to work at is making sure you find new experiences and find new ways to love the thing that you fell in love with in the first place, even if it is what you do on a daily basis, 8 hours a day. But no, I still love playing games. I still play games in my free time. I just end up thinking a lot more about them than when I did when I was 14 years old.
What are some of the downsides, I guess, of making it an 8-hour thing where you need to make sure that you're covering it for the rest of the day? How has that changed, I guess, playing games to a lot of people that don't do that?
Well, for one thing, there are nights that maybe you don't want to play games. Maybe you'd like to do something else other than play games. And certainly I don't have to play them every single minute of every, but in order to, I'm playing the kinds of games that are relevant at the time to make sure I am understanding what's interesting in games, I have to be playing them constantly. So there are times when I kind of have to force myself to play games, which sounds so terrible when I say it out loud, but there are instances in which it can be kind of a chore to do so. But at the end of the day, it is a chore in which involves me playing more video games, so boo-hoo for me.
Yeah, hard to complain. Do you ever find yourself playing these games, I guess, differently? How do you play games critically so that you can get the information you need that you know would interest the audience that you have?
I mean, a lot of times the way that works is I keep a notebook by me, or I've got my phone or iPad or something next to me that I can take some notes on. So often I'll be playing a game, and, you know, the kinds of things that when you play, you kind of go, huh, or interesting. I'll jot down those moments, and maybe that becomes a story, because often what we're doing at Kotaku or lots of other websites is creating conversation pieces for people. Like we have an opportunity to play games and think about them critically and play them again and think about the stuff that is really compelling and try and draw that stuff out, whether it's just saying like, hey, this is neat, let's talk about it. Or maybe it's, I know that I can call the developer up and find out exactly how that happened, why they did it. So a lot of my process and a lot of process for a lot of folks is just, thinking about those moments that make you pause and then finding ways to explore those a little bit further.
Where has your career taken you? Because I introduced you as someone that people know. How did you go from that 14-year-old just looking for a job to a name that I think is recognizable for a lot of people that are connected to this industry and that ideally listen to the show?
I mean, for me, it was just kind of, putting my nose to the grindstone, sticking with it, like realizing this is something I wanted to do in the long term. But I think more importantly, it was about realizing how people consume video games, how people consume information. I started out as someone that was writing for magazines, and then I recognized pretty early that this was all going to transition to online. And then even once I was writing for websites, I recognized that video was going to become a big thing, that podcasts are going to become a big thing. And so I try to kind of dip my toes into everything, realizing how are people consuming information, how are people consuming video games, and what's the best way that I can package what I think is interesting about them in a way that is going to reach more people. And I think that's just kind of been the way I've recognized that as my career has gone on.
For a young gamer that wants to be one of those voices, that wants to contribute, what are the chances now that you've been in this industry for a little while that they'll have an opportunity to get to the point where you are? Or is it now that there are just too many voices and people can't get those sort of jobs?
Well, I think it's a bit of a catch-22, right? So, previously it was that there weren't that many jobs, but there weren't that many people going for them. Now there's a lot of jobs, but a lot of people going for them. And I think it's actually easier than ever and also harder than ever. There's all these contradictions therein. But the ability for you to just flip on a piece of software on your computer, start streaming out a video game that you're playing, if you can find a voice, if you can find some way to connect with an audience, there is a way for you to make that work. And what's brilliant about what's happening on Twitch and YouTube and these other services is that there's ways to make money. It's not just that you're putting stuff out into the void. Like if people start watching what you're making, they can support you, not only with ads, but there are donations and subscriptions and all these different ways that these days, if you have something to say and you can find a way to make that resonate, it is absolutely possible for you to make that your career. Doesn't mean you're going to make a ton of money. Doesn't mean that you're going to become rich, but it is possible to make money doing what you love, and I think it's actually been easier than ever.
Well, there you go. You mentioned before that you saw the transition of this form of media from print journalism, online journalism, print, and video and audio now. Where do you see it going, and how are you going to make sure that your voice, I guess, is still there as the tides keep turning?
I mean, it's definitely going in the direction of video. I think that writing is going to become a premium. I think you're going to continue to see writing. There'll be certain things that are delivered faster in writing, right? I don't think you're going to go to necessarily YouTube for breaking news about something that just happened 5 seconds ago because video just doesn't package itself that way. But maybe that changes, right? Like I think you would have said a lot of different things 10 years ago that are not true anymore. But, I think for anyone that's thinking about this kind of work, when I think about this kind of work, I just look at where are people going. And I try not to get too hung up on how I used to do things or how I like doing things, and instead focus on how people want to experience those things. Because ultimately, they're the people that keep me in business. They're the people that drive traffic to my stories. Like they're the people that justify my salary. So I'm always thinking about what they want, and I think that's pretty critical for anyone that's thinking about getting into this as well. And as for where it's going, I mean, it's always hard to predict, but I think you look at applications like Periscope and Meerkat, in which it allows people to further democratize who can participate in this process, where you don't even need a computer. You don't need like fancy equipment. If you just have a smartphone that has a camera, you can flip that on and start broadcasting your experiences. And I think what that allows people to do is participate in a way they weren't able to before. And that just means there are more voices. And I think that's really exciting.
Again, that's Patrick Klepek, one of the lead writers at the website Kotaku, talking about the video game industry and how to get involved. We'll have more with Patrick right after this. VGS Talk Radio, AM 640.
You're listening to VGS with Andy Barkowski and David Spargala on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy and Dave here on this wonderful Sunday night in the city of Toronto, talking all about video games, tech, and right now how to get actually involved in the field. You love games. It's something that's a big part of your life. Your son or daughter really loves games. They want to get involved, but they don't know how. It's not that difficult. We're speaking today with Patrick Klepek. We have been for the last little while, all about what it's like to be involved in the video game industry. He is a big writer on the website Kotaku. He brings hard-nosed journalism to an issue that a lot of people wouldn't suspect, and he finds a lot of truth, and we're going to continue our conversation with him. For a lot of people that are not a part of any sort of news media, like working at a radio station, you get questions about kind of collusion. They understand that someone's telling you that this is the news story that you need to cover today. For those that aren't aware of, I guess, how that process works, could you take us through a little bit of a day in the life of what it would be like to be a video game journalist at the level you're at?
I mean, for us, it's a mixture of following what sort of gets handed down on high from video game publishers and things announced. You know, if they announce a new Halo game, we're probably going to report on that because people are probably going to be interested in the next Halo game. But a lot of what we focus on, especially at Kotaku, is player experiences and what are players doing. Not so much like, here's what I think, but looking at seeing what are communities doing. Like what's the weird stuff that people are doing with the PC version of Grand Theft Auto? How are people hacking apart that game and doing, like, you know, for example, there was a video, someone made it so one of the guns in that game doesn't shoot bullets, it shoots cars. So you hold down the fire button and you're just shooting out dozens of cars into the world. And that stuff's really interesting. And other places I've worked for, you don't see that very often. So we try and do this focus in which we balance between kind of the big high-level stuff that's happening that's out of our control, but then also really focusing on what players are doing. Because often once the games come out, there's just not that much of a focus on what people are doing with those games. And people play games for months or years afterwards. And so we spend a lot of time looking at that and trying to highlight the really cool things that players are doing. And that doesn't take us out of the equation entirely, but I think we try and find a better balance between what we think and what audiences are actually doing with these games.
Since you give so much of yourself with many of these stories, you know, you talked about how for years it was all about your personality and the games that you like and the other people at Giant Bomb, the games that they like. Was there an instance where you were personally attacked because it was more you than just a talking head about the latest news or this cool thing that the indie community is doing?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say the flip side to the sort of increased personalization of media in general, whether it's games or anything else, is that, yeah, that the when people are upset, they have someone to focus it on. They have a target to point it at. And so I would say that's absolutely true, in which, you know, and express an opinion that's maybe unpopular or aggravates a certain audience, that they tend to come at you with a certain degree of vitriol that maybe existed before, but I think was much harder to get exposed to. You know, it's the level of access you can get to people has changed, in which if something was written in a newspaper 20 years ago that really upset you, if you wanted to express that opinion, you had to write a letter, mail it to the newspaper or magazine and hope it gets published. Whereas these days, you log into Twitter, can register an anonymous account and lob whatever you want at that person. It just, the barrier to entry to say something to someone has gotten much lower, which comes with all sorts of amazing things, right? Like I get to connect with an audience on a personal level in a way that I couldn't before, but then it also allows the jerks of the world to, you know, lob their own grenades.
Do you ever find that line between inserting your personality and just being able to essentially do your job ever gets a little bit muddied, not by your own work, but merely because people have deemed an opinion of yours to be unpopular?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll find people have different lines about how much they kind of put themselves out there, because what I've found is that the more you put yourself out there, the more people respond to it. But then you start to thinking about, like, well, if I start talking about my wife or tweeting at my wife when I'm talking about her on Twitter, is that going to drag her into something if things go awry or I say something unpopular? And that has definitely happened to me in the past, in which I have expressed an unpopular opinion about a game series, and then as a tactic to try and upset me, they start tweeting at my wife as a way of getting my attention. And, you know, that stuff's really upsetting, and it kind of comes with the territory, but it's one of those unfortunate why does it have to come with the territory sort of things.
Yeah, it is an unfortunate side of this, and I think another unfortunate side of it is the proposed link between collusion between media and developers. What do you say to people that still lob those sorts of claims at your feet?
I mean, it's always good for audiences to try and hold the media accountable, in the sense that, if the media is meant to hold the industry accountable, it's also good for readers to be keeping that in mind. If they notice patterns, like to try and point things that out, because, hey, like, people in my industry don't always get it right. Like, we make mistakes too. But at the same time, I would say, generally speaking, the feeling of collusion and the conspiracy theories about what happened are much more entertaining than anything I've ever actually seen happen in my 15 years. I wish it was that interesting or there was that much stuff going on, which isn't to say there isn't shady stuff that happens or that bad things there aren't bad eggs in the media basket. There's absolutely stuff like that, but it is far less interesting than it is actually portrayed in certain circles. And, I think one of the things that the games media finds itself struggling with is that, games aren't politics or government. There is no Freedom of Information Act in which you can file a request with Activision to get disclosure papers on what's happening with Destiny, right? And so a lot of what's required by the media is to try and get cozy in some respects with developers to get access and information that we won't be given otherwise. And so, what's also nice about the personalization of media is that you can pick and choose who you trust for that stuff. I've spent my entire career hopefully building up enough of an authority that when I pass on information, when I publish reports, not only do people trust me, but they know that if I've had to get close to a number of sources to provide that information, that I've done so in a responsible way. And if they don't trust me, well, they can go find another reporter, which is the great thing about these days, is that if you don't like that person, there's another one right down the line that you can move to.
What is your final piece of advice for those young kids listening to this, or not even young kids, they're just in high school, they want to find a job, they want to get involved, they want to do what you do? Put them on the right path. How do they become you?
Two pieces of critical advice that I would tell for people these days. One is just to start doing it. It's one thing to sit around and talk about how I'd like to get a job in it. Start writing, start making videos, start doing anything that goes in the direction of what you want to do professionally and get paid to do for a living. Because the thing that always impresses me the most is when people do it before it's not their job. They do it before they're getting paid. It shows a passion and a commitment and a desire to get better at it before a paycheck starts showing up. Because everyone that's done this for a living now, they've had to pay their dues in that exact same way. And the second thing would be to find your niche. Like, figure out what are you good at? What do you have something to say about that other people aren't doing or aren't doing nearly as well as you could? Because that's the way you stand out. Whether it's I'm going to play horror games or I'm going to talk about Japanese RPGs. Like, figure out what are you passionate about and how can you excel and be interesting in a way that will stand out, and maybe that can be your foot in the door.
Big thanks to Patrick Klepek, the lead writer at Kotaku, speaking to us here about video games, how to get involved in the industry, and why it is really important. That was the first segment of our conversation. We had a great long talk with him. If you want to hear the rest, make sure you head online to 640toronto.com/VGS. That's our main page, where we have even more content from this interview and tons of other interviews, including the content we had last week with Patrick Weeks. Now, we got to take a quick break before we clear it all up for this week and get you ready for what's coming up next on VGS Talk Radio, AM 640.
You're listening to VGS with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy here, VGS. Thank you so much for joining the program, listening to this great content. Of course, a big thank you to Pokemon. It shaped us into the men and women we are today. Thank you very much, Pokemon.
Yep.
Shaggy Dave, to my left, thank you again for joining the program. You showcased some of your skills this hour.
I did, yes. I hope you enjoyed it.
I absolutely did. If you want to listen to this now, since you missed the program, head online, 640toronto.com/VGS. Look at our main page. Hour 2 of the show is there. Also, there's another way to reach us.
Yeah, Twitter. At VGS_640.
Email as well, don't forget that.
Yeah, VGS@640toronto.com.
Another big thank you to our featured guest, Patrick Klepek, the lead writer at Kotaku, one of the lead writers. He talked all about the video game industry, how he got involved, and how you can get involved. Make sure you check that out online if you missed it. Next week, big show. We're talking to one of the minds, in my estimation, behind one of the biggest games of all time. Don't miss out next Sunday at 7. Up next, we have Inside Jokes. I'm Andy Burkowski.
And I'm Shaggy Dave.
And this is VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Without a doubt, the worst episode ever. Rest assured that